Dr. Elena Matthews stared down at the artifact with wide eyes. The strange, glowing stone in her hands was unlike anything she'd ever encountered. Its surface shimmered in shifting patterns of blue and violet, as if the stone itself was alive. The vibrations emanating from it were subtle but unmistakable, a low hum that seemed to echo in the back of her mind. "Dr. Matthews." A voice broke through her concentration. It was Captain Marcus Hale, the leader of the security team assigned to her excavation. He was standing at the entrance of the chamber, arms crossed, his face set in an unreadable expression. "Is it safe?" Elena didn't respond immediately. She was too absorbed in the artifact, which now seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. She felt a surge of excitement flood through her. After months of searching, her team had finally uncovered something truly monumental. But what was it? "The readings are unlike anything we've ever seen," Elena finally said, her voice tinged with disbelief. She turned to face Marcus, her eyes still fixed on the stone. "This isn't just an artifact. It's a piece of technology, something beyond our understanding." Marcus frowned. "And it's giving off radiation." The whole chamber's lit up. "Is it dangerous?" Elena hesitated, torn between scientific curiosity and the gnawing feeling of unease building inside her. "We don't know enough yet. I've never seen anything like it, but I don't think it's harmful, at least, not yet. I need more time to study it." She moved toward a nearby console, tapping a few keys on her tablet to bring up the readings. The device blinked to life, confirming what she had already suspected. The energy levels were off the charts. But it wasn't just radiation, it was something else. Something deliberate, structured. "Doctor, we've got a problem." Marcus interrupted again, his voice sharper this time. "The seismic activity, it's increasing." Elena blinked. "What?" "Look." Marcus pointed to a monitor on the wall. The screen showed the ground outside beginning to tremble slightly, with data indicating a deep rumble beneath the planet's surface. The seismic waves were escalating. "We're not sure how, but this artifact is triggering something down below. We need to get out of here." A chill ran down Elena's spine. This wasn't just any discovery. It was something far more dangerous. The artifact was connected to the planet's very core, and it was awakening something long dormant. "We can't leave. Not yet. I need to understand what this is." Elena's voice was a low whisper, filled with both fear and determination. She couldn't back away now, not when they were so close to uncovering the truth. Marcus hesitated, but the urgency in Elena's eyes made him relent. "All right, but we don't have much time. Get what you need. And we're gone. Fast." As Elena turned back to the artifact, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something extraordinary and catastrophic. The answers she sought were within reach, but at what cost? The planet was trembling beneath her feet, and she couldn't help but wonder if they had just disturbed something that was never meant to be found. The hum of the stone grew louder, almost as if it were calling to her. The following days were a blur of frantic activity. The artifact was brought to the research facility, where Elena and her team worked around the clock to unlock its secrets. Every scan, every test, only deepened the mystery. The stone itself seemed to resist full analysis. Its energy fields warped their equipment, creating static bursts that interfered with their data. But slowly, Elena pieced together a sequence of holographic images and text that began to reveal the truth. "It's a map," Elena whispered to herself, her fingers trembling as she traced the glowing symbols etched into the surface of the stone. The symbols, though foreign, felt eerily familiar, like fragments of a dream just out of reach. The map stretched far beyond any region humanity had ever explored, extending to uncharted territories at the outer edges of known space. Her assistant, Dr. Aaron Wells, stood beside her, his eyes wide as he studied the projections. "This can't be right. These coordinates, they point to multiple galaxies, not just one star system. The scope of this it's incomprehensible." "It's not just a map," Elena said, her voice barely a whisper. It's a history, a record. We're looking at the ancient origins of life itself. Aaron blinked, clearly trying to process the enormity of the revelation. You mean the primordials, the myth? He seemed unsure, as if speaking the words aloud somehow made it more real. Elena nodded. The primordials weren't just a myth. They existed millions of years ago, and they didn't just populate one world. They seeded life across the galaxy. Aaron's voice dropped to a nervous hush. But how is that possible? We thought humanity was the first intelligent species. We were the ones who reached for the stars first. I thought that too, Elena admitted. Her eyes darkened with realization. But the truth is far more complex. The primordials were the architects of life, ours included. They created humanity for a purpose, one that none of us could have imagined. Her words hung in the air, heavy with a truth that was impossible to grasp. The implications were staggering. The Earth, the cradle of humanity, had not been the birthplace of life. It had been a garden, cultivated by the primordials, who had planted seeds of intelligence and culture across the galaxy. Their technology, though ancient, was advanced beyond comprehension. And now, humanity had stumbled upon the remnants of their long-forgotten civilization. As Elena ran her fingers over the map again, a new image flickered to life. A hologram of an enormous ethereal ship, its design far more intricate and beautiful than any human creation. It was a vessel that could travel across galaxies, carrying the seeds of life itself. The ship's hull shimmered, glowing with a power that almost felt alive. This, Elena whispered, is what they left behind. This is what humanity has inherited. Before Aaron could respond, an alarm blared through the facility, cutting their conversation short. The walls trembled and the lights flickered. Elena's heart raced as she turned toward the security monitors, her blood running cold. Outside the research building, something massive was moving through the sky, something not human. It had begun. The Shattering were already aware of their discovery. The sky above the excavation site was thick with dark clouds, a storm building on the horizon. The sudden shift in weather mirrored the rising tension among the crew. Elena stood at the edge of the dig site, her mind racing as the last few hours played out like a nightmare. The Shattering, an ancient enemy of the primordials, had been watching, waiting. Their ships were already in orbit, cloaked and silent, lurking in the shadows of the galaxy. Elena. Captain Marcus Hale's voice cut through her thoughts. He stood behind her, his face drawn with worry. We need to get to the evacuation shuttle. It's only a matter of time before they move in. We can't let them take this, whatever it is. But Elena didn't budge. She was transfixed by the holographic map still projecting in the air before her, the coordinates flickering in a pattern that almost seemed like a warning. The map is more than just directions, she murmured. It's a guide, a blueprint for something much bigger. Marcus took a step closer, his boots crunching on the dry earth. You're not making sense. The Shattering will be here any minute. We can't risk staying. Elena's hand hovered over the shimmering symbols, her mind racing through the data she'd uncovered. The primordials. They left something behind. Something powerful. Her voice trailed off as she processed the new information. I think it's a weapon. One capable of stopping the Shattering for good. Weapon? Marcus' voice was sharp with concern. You're telling me we've been digging up a weapon this whole time? She nodded, her pulse quickening as she read the patterns on the map. Not just any weapon. A weapon designed to obliterate entire fleets, to wipe out entire civilizations. It's a weapon they hid, sealed away to protect it from falling into the wrong hands. The Shattering must have known about it. Why else would they come after us so aggressively? Marcus took a deep breath, the weight of their situation sinking in. So, what now? We use it. You think we can control something like that? Elena turned toward him, her face grim. I don't know if we can, but we have to try. We're the only ones left who can unlock it. Without another word, Elena and Marcus led the team into the heart of the ancient ruin, where an enormous half-buried structure lay hidden beneath layers of stone and debris. The ruins were more vast than anything they'd encountered, stretching deeper into the planet's core than the sensors could track. As they entered the darkened depths, the air grew colder, and the faint hum of the artifact they had discovered earlier echoed off the walls. "Whatever's down there, it's not just a weapon," Alina said, more to herself than anyone else. "It's a key to understanding everything. The primordials rise, their fall, their purpose. They made their way through the narrow, winding corridors, each step bringing them closer to something that could change the fate of the galaxy. The walls were etched with unfamiliar symbols, ancient writings detailing the primordials' greatest secrets they had left behind for a reason. And then, deep in the heart of the structure, Alina saw it. A colossal chamber, its walls lined with strange, glowing orbs, each one pulsing with the same energy as the artifact. In the center, a massive pedestal stood, empty, but not for long. "Alina," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "Whatever it is, it's waking up." The ground trembled beneath them, the rumbling growing louder with each passing second. Something had been triggered. The primordial's legacy was awakening, and they were not alone. The vibrations from the deep beneath their feet grew stronger, each tremor shaking the ground with increasing intensity. The air was thick with the low hum of energy, something alive, something ancient, pressing in on them from all sides. Alina and her team stood frozen in the massive chamber, surrounded by the pulsing orbs embedded in the walls. The pedestal at the center seemed to call out to them, its surface etched with symbols that matched those on the artifact they had uncovered. But this was no longer just a map, it was a doorway. "Alina," Marcus's voice broke through her trance. "We have to move. This place is unstable. We can't stay here much longer." She didn't answer him immediately. Her gaze remained fixed on the pedestal. Something was drawing her in. Her fingers itched to touch the stone surface, to activate whatever was hidden there. The truth was close, just within her reach. "I think this is it," Alina said, her voice low and filled with awe. "The weapon. It's not just a weapon. It's a source of power, a way to unlock the full potential of the primordial technology. This is the key." Her heart raced, and for the first time, Alina wasn't sure if she was prepared for what would happen next. Everything she had learned, all the fragments of ancient knowledge, had led them here. But unlocking this power would come with a cost she could not fully understand. A sudden flash of light erupted from the pedestal, and the ground quaked beneath them. Alina stumbled forward as a crackling energy surged from the center of the room, forming a brilliant vortex of light and shadow. The walls trembled violently, and the orbs along the chamber began to glow brighter, their pulses synchronized with the vortex. It was as if the entire structure was alive, responding to something or someone. Awakening. "Alina, get back," Marcus shouted, pulling her toward him as the vortex spun faster, throwing waves of raw energy across the room. But it was too late. A dark shape began to emerge from the center of the vortex, an enormous silhouette, taller than anything human. It was humanoid in shape, but its skin shimmered with an ethereal metallic sheen. Its eyes glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light, and Alina's breath caught in her throat as she realized what she was seeing. It's one of them," she whispered, a chill creeping down her spine. "A primordial." The being's gaze settled on them, its presence suffocating. It was as if time itself slowed. The air thickened, and every sense in Alina's body screamed with the knowledge that she was in the presence of something far beyond human comprehension. The primordial raised a hand, and the energy from the vortex seemed to shift, flowing toward it like a tide. The ground beneath Alina's feet cracked open, revealing an intricate array of glowing runes that expanded outward from the pedestal, weaving themselves into the fabric of the chamber. "You should not have awakened us," the voice boomed in their minds, an ancient, gravelly voice that resonated through every fiber of her being. The primordial stepped forward, its form taking shape fully, towering over the group. "The Shattering will not allow you to wield what you have disturbed." The room pulsed one final time with an overwhelming burst of light. Then, everything fell silent. The primordial towered over them, its ancient form radiating an overwhelming sense of power. Alina's heart raced as she struggled to process the reality of what was standing before them. The creature's eyes, glowing with a strange, unfathomable light, locked onto her, as if measuring her very soul. "You have disturbed the balance." The primordial's voice boomed in their minds again, a low, resonating sound that reverberated in Alina's chest. "The Shattering will not tolerate your interference." Alina's thoughts whirled. She had read about the Shattering, an ancient, ruthless race that had battled the primordials for control of the galaxy. But she had never imagined this. The primordials were not just relics of the past, but guardians of something far more important, something the Shattering would stop at nothing to prevent humanity from discovering. Before Alina could speak, the air around them seemed to distort, as though the fabric of reality itself was being torn apart. The room shuddered as a burst of energy erupted from the primordial, sending a shockwave through the chamber. The walls cracked, and the floor beneath them split open, revealing deep chasms of blackness. Alina stumbled back, barely able to maintain her footing. "Get out of here," Marcus shouted, pulling her away from the chaos. But before they could retreat, the vortex in the center of the room flickered violently, its light flashing with urgency. Alina's eyes widened as she realized the energy wasn't just destabilizing. It was signaling something. Something far worse was on the way. From the depths of space, far beyond the human colonies, a fleet of Shattering warships emerged from the void, their massive forms gliding silently toward the planet. They were already here. The Shattering had made their move. The shuttle would never make it in time. "Alina, we need to leave now," Marcus barked, his voice full of panic. "The Shattering are coming, and we're sitting ducks down here." But Alina stood frozen, her gaze locked on the vortex. The primordial's words echoed in her mind. "The Shattering will not allow you to wield what you have disturbed." It was clear now. The Shattering had known of the primordial's power all along, and they would do anything to prevent its resurgence. If they could harness the technology, humanity would be forced into servitude, just as the primordials had been. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sharp noise, a piercing mechanical whine that sliced through the air. She turned, eyes wide, as the ground beneath them began to rumble again. The Shattering ships had initiated their descent. "Alina, they're here," Marcus shouted, urgency now clear in his voice. "We can't stop them. We need to run." But Alina couldn't move. The ancient being's presence pressed on her mind like a weight, pulling her into its ancient knowledge. She could see it now, glimpses of the primordial fleet, the technology they had created, and the destruction they had caused. The Shattering had sealed this power away for a reason, and now humanity had uncovered it. The fate of the galaxy was at stake. The walls around them began to crack and groan, the entire structure destabilizing as the Shattering forces descended like a swarm of locusts. Alina's mind raced. She couldn't just run. They had come too far. They had uncovered too much. "We can't let them win," she said softly, almost to herself, her hand trembling as she reached out to the glowing pedestal. Before anyone could stop her, she activated the device. The energy in the room surged, and a wave of blinding light engulfed the chamber. The blinding light from the pedestal washed over them, engulfing the chamber in a brilliant flare. For a moment, time seemed to stretch, the energy surging around Alina like a wave crashing through her very bones. The walls trembled violently, and the ground beneath her feet buckled. The hum of ancient technology reverberated through her, a deep, pulsing rhythm that matched her heartbeat. Then, just as quickly as it had begun, the light subsided, leaving behind a haunting silence. Alina staggered back, disoriented, her vision blurred. She could still feel the energy radiating from the pedestal, thick and powerful, but the world around her was shifting. The Zarin ships were descending rapidly, their massive forms blotting out the sky, casting shadows that stretched across the landscape. Is it done? Marcus's voice was strained, panic creeping into his tone as he surveyed the crumbling ruins. His team was scattered, but all eyes were on Alina, waiting for her to make the next move. For a heartbeat, Alina couldn't speak. Her body still hummed with the energy of the primordial device, and her mind raced to process what had just happened. The chamber had shifted, its ancient mechanisms clicking into place, and in the distance, she could see something stirring, something much larger than the primordial who had awakened earlier. The device, it's activated, she said slowly, her voice filled with awe and fear. But it's not just a weapon, it's a signal. Marcus's eyes widened. A signal? For what? Alina looked back at the pedestal, now glowing more intensely than ever. For the primordial fleet, it's calling them. They're coming. A deafening roar suddenly filled the air as the ground shook again. The Zarin ships were almost on top of them. Alina could see the massive warships descending through the atmosphere, their sleek, menacing forms cutting through the clouds. Each ship bristled with weapons, cannons and energy blasts that could obliterate entire cities. But it was the hum that grew louder, not from the Zarin ships, but from the depths of the planet. The vibration surged beneath their feet, and Alina realized with a jolt that the primordial fleet wasn't the only thing that was responding to the signal. The very planet itself was reacting, its core stirring, as if the dormant power deep inside was awakening. And then a sound, a deep, resonant boom, echoed from above. The first of the primordial ships appeared in the sky, not one or two, but dozens, their sleek, silver forms cutting through the atmosphere like shooting stars. They were enormous, their energy fields flickering with a power that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "Get to the shuttle," Marcus yelled, his voice hoarse. "We need to leave before it's too late." But Alina didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the sky, watching as the battle unfolded before her. The Zarin ships, despite their size and power, were being surrounded by the primordial vessels, who unleashed a volley of energy blasts so powerful that the very air seemed to crackle with the intensity. The first Zarin ship exploded in a fiery burst, disintegrating in an instant. Alina could feel the weight of what she had done. The primordials had been dormant, locked away for millions of years, but now they were returning. And they were not here for peace. The Zarin had known this day would come, but humanity had only just discovered it. The fight for control of the galaxy was about to enter a new phase, one where the stakes were higher than ever before. "Marcus," Alina said, her voice firm despite the chaos around them. "We can't run. We need to be part of this. We need to fight for our future." The sky above was ablaze with the fiery clash of the two fleets, a chaotic dance of destruction as the primordial ships tore into the Zarin forces. Alina watched in awe and fear as the battle unfolded. The Zarin warships, though formidable, were being pushed back by the relentless, precise energy blasts from the primordials. But Alina knew this was only the beginning. The Zarin would never retreat so easily. "Alina, we can't stand around here," Marcus shouted over the roar of the chaos. "The battle is escalating, and we're sitting ducks down here." Alina's gaze shifted back to the pedestal. It was still glowing, pulsing with energy, and though she knew it was calling for more of the primordials, it also seemed to be opening something else, something dangerous. The ground continued to rumble beneath them as the planet's core, once dormant, was now fully awake, and its power was not just responding to the primordials, it was feeding them. "I can't leave," Alina said, her voice low but filled with resolve. "Not yet. We're too close. The answers are in the ruins. We have to understand the connection between the Zarin and the primordials." Marcus hesitated, eyes scanning the sky as another explosion rocked the air. "You don't understand, Alina. This isn't just about knowledge anymore. The Zarin are trying to wipe us out. We've been caught in the middle of an ancient war." "I know," Elena replied, her tone soft yet firm. But the Jaren are not just attacking for revenge. They're trying to stop the primordials from returning, because they know what happens if the primordials regain control. They lose. It was the first time Elena had fully realized the weight of the situation. The Jaren were terrified, not of the primordials' ships or weapons, but of what would happen if the primordials regained their place at the top of the galaxy's power structure. The primordials were ancient beings with the power to reshape entire worlds, to bend the fabric of reality itself. But if the Jaren were wiped out, humanity would be caught in the middle, left to decide which faction to side with. "We don't have a choice anymore," Elena said, determination creeping into her voice. "We need to prepare. The primordials can't do this alone. The Jaren are too strong." Marcus's eyes narrowed, understanding finally dawning. "So we fight back." Elena nodded slowly. "Yes, but we need their technology. We need to learn how to control it. The Jaren may have the numbers, but we have the key." Before Marcus could respond, the ground shook again. This time, it wasn't just the vibration of battle, it was the planet itself, reacting to the surge of energy that now pulsed through the atmosphere. The walls of the ruin cracked, and pieces of ancient metal began to rise from the ground, slowly assembling themselves into an enormous structure. "Elena," Marcus said, voice tight with urgency, "what the hell is that?" The structure continued to form, rising in front of them like some kind of massive weapon, its surface gleaming with the same strange energy as the pedestal. It was as if the planet itself was offering its power to the primordials. And now, to humanity. This wasn't just a weapon. It was an entire fleet of ancient machines, waiting to be unlocked. "We need to activate it," Elena said, eyes fixed on the growing structure. "This is humanity's chance to survive and fight for our future." But as she spoke, the first of the Jaren ships came into view above the ruins, its massive form cutting through the sky like an iron blade. The Jaren warship loomed large in the sky, its massive frame descending with a terrifying grace. It unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, crackling beams of destruction that slammed into the primordial ships, lighting up the atmosphere like a storm. Elena felt the heat of the explosions even from where she stood, the raw power radiating from the ongoing conflict. But she couldn't afford to be distracted by the battle raging above. The rise of the ancient structure before her was the key to humanity's survival or its doom. "We have to get inside," Elena shouted to Marcus, her voice urgent as she sprinted toward the towering structure. It was a massive, jagged shape, seemingly made of living metal, its surface humming with the same energy that had flooded the ruins. It was a weapon, yes, but also something more, something that could turn the tide in this war. Marcus followed close behind, pulling his team along with him. "I hope you know what you're doing," he muttered, his eyes scanning the sky nervously. "Because if this goes wrong, we're not just dead, we're obliterated." Elena didn't respond, her mind laser-focused on the task ahead. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on her shoulders. The primordials were returning, but their power couldn't be fully unlocked without the right guide, the right conduit. And that guide was humanity. Her team was the key, as much as the technology they had unearthed. They reached the base of the structure. The surface was alive, shifting in patterns that mirrored the ancient symbols in the ruins. The air buzzed with energy, and as Elena touched the metal, it vibrated beneath her fingers. The ground trembled again, this time in response to their proximity to the structure. "Elena, stop," Marcus shouted. "We don't know what will happen if you activate this thing. What if it's a trap?" Her eyes locked onto him. "It's not a trap. This is the only way. If we don't activate it, the Jaren will wipe us out. The primordials will never trust us unless we prove ourselves worthy." Marcus hesitated, looking back at the sky where the battle was escalating. One of the Jaren ships had been torn apart by a blast from a primordial vessel, but more Jaren ships were coming, reinforcements, and the odds were quickly turning against the primordials. Humanity had one shot to make the right choice. With a deep breath, Alina pressed her palm against the surface of the structure. The energy surged through her, a tidal wave of raw power, filling her body with knowledge she could barely comprehend. The ancient machines hummed, and slowly the structure began to unfold. Massive wings of metal extended from its sides, and cannons, each more powerful than anything the Jaren had, revealed themselves from within. The structure had become a ship, one of unimaginable power. "Ready or not," Alina murmured, her voice filled with awe. "We're part of this now." The team stood in stunned silence, unable to fully grasp what was happening. The ship's interior lit up, its systems coming online, and the ground around them began to shift. The Zarin ships were closing in, but now, humanity had an equalizer. Alina looked at her team one final time. "This is our fight. If we win, the galaxy will be ours to shape. If we lose, there will be nothing left." With a final, determined nod, she stepped onto the ship's ramp, feeling the hum of ancient technology beneath her feet. The door sealed behind them, and the structure's engines roared to life, lifting off from the ruins. As they ascended into the atmosphere, Alina caught one last glimpse of the raging battle between the fleets. But now, the tide was turning.